What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 215.
215.
On this Monday, October 6th, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green with you. It is Texas week. It's a post-game reaction Monday. We're going to wrap up Kent State. What do we think about Michael Hawkins? That's the big question mark. And can they go beat Texas? If Hawkins has to be the guy this weekend, we will, of course, dive into all that. Everything else coming out of the Kent State game, and we'll peer ahead to the weekend ahead as Oklahoma and Texas. It's the best week of the year. Here we go, Red River Rivalry week. Big week around here, and we're going to dive into all of it here on a Monday. As we get started, as always, reminder, you can subscribe to Sooners Illustrated at oklahoma.247sports.com. Use the promo code SoonersPod60, all one word. It's right there on the screen for watching on YouTube. You get you 60% off a VIP membership for a year to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network. So great value. It's the perfect week. If you're not with us yet, jump in. The gauntlet begins with Texas. Perfect time. Hop in. Be with us every step of the way throughout the rest of this 2025 season. Gentlemen, let's get into it. Oklahoma, Kent State on Saturday. We knew going in, Oklahoma's going to win this game by a lot. Really, the main intrigue was going to be how Michael Hawkins looked. But, they win at 44-0. They get their shutout. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. We'll get into all of it. That's what we do here on a Monday. But, Oklahoma took care of business here, right? This was a game you expected them to dominate, and they did.
Yeah, I figured they were going to get a shutout. They finally got it.
You guys both called it.
Yeah, they should have 3 of those on the season at this point, to be honest. And a big reason why they were able to get it is they did not commit any turnovers, which, first time this season that the offense has not committed turnovers. And perhaps more importantly, the defense finally got a couple. They got a defensive touchdown on a strip sack by R. Mason Thomas that Rayson Halton recovered and ran in for the touchdown. Jaydn Ott got an interception later in the third quarter. It was just a very thorough performance again. I feel like I've used that word a few times. Like, they handled their business. There wasn't anything, particularly flashy about what they did offensively.
Sure.
I think there were some things to like, some things to be concerned about. The defense, I don't think we could say it enough, just like how dominant this unit has been. It's, ranked first in the SEC in several categories, ranked first nationally in a handful of categories, but top 5 in a whole lot more. And it's just been kind of what we thought they could be defensively, but certainly still some questions about what the offense is and can be and will be in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm. I think the big thing about this is that going to the 9 games conference schedule, you won't have games like this midway through the season. And you risk injury to certain guys and guys like that down the line that could really affect your team going into like just with Keontae Lewis. Like, it's a big injury that didn't need to happen, I think, in the middle of the season, pretty much, just from what happened there. Michael Hawkins, as we said in the post game, he had some struggles. It was an up and down game for him overall, but that was the one thing that you really could watch given the opponent that Oklahoma was playing in this game. It was like really just to focus on him. And I think we learned a few things about him, maybe that he wasn't all the way as there as we thought he was, based on what we had seen in training camp and things like that. He hadn't gained that type of confidence and things like that. So that's really what it was. It was just Michael Hawkins in a situation like that. We knew the defense was going to get the shutout because of the opponent. I think it was an easy call for me and Tom on that note. So it was just a rough watch, I think, overall. Even though it was 44-0, it's hard to take positive things away, because if they win 44-0, you're like, man, they could have won by more. It's like you have that type of notion about it. So I don't know. I'm glad these games won't necessarily be happening midway through the season anymore.
In my defense on the shutout, they were in field goal range and just didn't kick it. They easily could have avoided.
Well, that's true too. That's true.
But they decided not to. Kind of surprising, honestly. Yeah, let's go and get into Michael Hawkins. That's where the intrigue is. That's the conversation point going into the game and certainly coming out of the game. What did we think? I mentioned it in the instant reaction that James and I did, which apologies for the audio on that, by the way. I mentioned it then. Just a camera error on my part. Won't happen again. Appreciate everyone bearing with us on that on Saturday night. But I mentioned it then. It just kind of felt the same in a lot of ways, which isn't all bad, right? It's not like it was all bad last year. We talked about that last week. It wasn't like he was just a disaster last year. He just kind of wasn't ready, really. But he did some good things. You had the Auburn game, certainly looked pretty good in the bowl game last year, had some nice moments, had that late drive against Navy. They didn't get the 2-point, but he took them down the field to, tie the game, or obviously they went for the win, didn't get it. But you get the idea. It was kind of some good moments. That's kind of how Saturday was. Like, there were some good moments. He did some nice things with his legs, I thought. But man, he just missed a lot of passes. 14 of 24, so he finished. That's a lot of incompletions against Kent State. 162 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He ran the ball a little bit, 9 carries for 33 yards. Obviously, you take off some sacks there, hurt his yardage a little bit. What'd you think? Because, I mean, that was what we were all going to watch for, was how does it look? It kind of felt pretty similar to last year, which some good, but also, like, I think we were all hoping for a little more in terms of, like, an obvious leap, right? I mean, that's kind of the sentiment it seemed to be coming out of this game. Is that how you felt, Tom? We'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there was some things that you really liked about what he did, and others that were like, okay, like this still looks a little bit like freshman Michael Hawkins Jr. He certainly sailed a few throws, probably a few that he wants back. Pretty efficient in the first half, but then second half he was just 3 of 9, and I think he finished 3 of his final 11 passing. Obviously a touchdown there. I liked what he was able to do in some of those quick decision, like play action or RPO, pull and read, and just like the touchdown to Caden Helms, for example. It was just like real quick decision and just threw a dart in there right to him. But there were other times where it's like he's just putting a little bit too much mustard on those passes. Saw some more of that sidearm action that you don't necessarily want to see.
It looks cool when it works, but when it doesn't,
it's ugly.
Didn't always have his feet under him, and looked to be a little, I don't want to say jittery, but just like not calm necessarily in the pocket at times. But I think there's also context to it. It's like they pared back the offense a little bit. They didn't, go all out with what they were doing. They focused a little bit more on trying to establish the run just based on the run pass split there. Certainly got Torrey Blaylock going, got Jaydn Ott involved. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. And then their average starting field position was like the 45-yard line. They had 3 drives, I think, that started on Kent State's side of the field. So it's not like they were asked, he had to go out there and like orchestrate, these long sustained drives. So it's hard to get a full picture of what he did, but I think that there were some things to like, some things that you're definitely still questioning heading into this week, especially if, he's going to be the guy starting for them against Texas this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, like I said, post-game, his best throw of the day was to carry on over the middle of the field. I think that got him in the red zone. It was a really good throw across the middle. I think it was a post route from carry on that just looked really good. Had that zip on the ball that we've been talking about. But then he has throws like to Javon Gibson, who had his one catch of the game. It was like just a little simple, just a stop route, and he threw it high, and Javon had to go up and get it, and kind of got paid the price for that as well on the hit. So like those type of plays are there right now for Hawkins, where it's up and down performance. Because then he has, like Tom said, the touchdown pass to Caden Holmes, where he made a really good read in the RPO situation and just found the right tight end in that spot. So it was some things you could take away that were really good, and some things that were not so good as well. I think the Oklahoma offensive line also had one of their worst games of the season. For some reason, the pass blocking didn't seem to be up to par for what it usually is. I mean, that's just my eye test of it. It didn't look like it was there all the way. So maybe that affected it as well. I mean, all that plays a part, I think, overall. But just that's the way I see his performance overall. It was an up and down performance from him, and I don't know. You gotta keep looking at it and see what he can improve throughout the week if we're gonna really be confident going into Texas.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, it's also a little bit jarring after like watching John Mateer through the first 4 games, because an area that John Mateer is just like always kind of excelled at is that intermediate passing game and over the middle of the field. And Michael Hawkins just was not like in sync with the receivers on a lot of those pass attempts. He hit a couple of deeper passes. He was pretty efficient in like the short passing game, but it was just like kind of that, between 10 and 19 yards down the field, he was just inconsistent and, had a lot of his misfires in that part of the passing game when, through these first 4 games, we've just seen John Mateer like a surgeon out there, just very precise with those routes and those throws.
And that was kind of surprising too, because I asked Deion Burks about that before the game, and he was like, "Yeah, he's always practiced with the ones anyway, so the timing is already there with all of the guys." So like I just thought that going in was going to be a big factor in, him having his rhythm and comfortability, because he's been throwing to the same receivers all season, but it just didn't play out that way. So it was a little weird, yeah.
Yeah, that's the perplexing thing about Hawkins, is that he does have moments. He has flashes of it. I mean, even the touchdown to Satania, honestly, the first one, I should specify, in the moment when it happened live, I thought, well, that was just a crazy ill-advised throw. But watching the game back this morning, that really was actually a pretty nice play. I mean, Satania was open. He's getting hit as he throws and just somehow got it out there to him.
arm
The throw
strength.
to carry on that James mentioned was a rope. He had another side armor Satania down the field later in the second half. That was a laser beam. The Caden Helms, nice little read to kind of flip it out there to him. But then he just has other ones where just missing an open guy, just inaccurate, just missing. There was one to carry on the sideline where his feet were just all over the place. And like, I'm not a coach, I'm hesitant to get too much into like the mechanics and footwork of the position. That's above my skis a bit, but you can tell watching it, like that's not how it's supposed to look. It just looks weird sometimes. And so, he made some plays with his legs. It's like, you can see why OU likes him and why there is a lot of potential there, but there's just, I don't know. It's like maybe he just needs more games. I think everyone was just kind of hoping he was going to go into this game and light it up and look awesome and they were going to dominate. And, for him, it was kind of an opportunity if Mateer is back this week, especially like to go kind of make a statement for next year. Like, look at how I'm progressing. And it just, again, I said earlier, it kind of just felt the same in a lot of ways. So we'll see. Obviously, the question now will be, can they beat Texas with them? And we'll get into that a little bit later on when we kind of start to peer ahead. But it was kind of it was okay. It was fine at times, and at other times, kind of ugly. So we'll see. Kind of moving forward, it does help that they ran the ball a little bit better in this game. Tom mentioned it. Jaydn Ott got involved. So here we go. We talked about it in the preview on Friday. This was kind of it for Jaydn Ott. Like, if it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen. He got in the game. They gave him 11 carries in this game. They also threw him the ball a couple of times. He looked kind of good. He had 49 carries, or 49 yards, not 49 carries. That'd be a lot. 49 yards. Torrey Blaylock had a very nice game as well. He's still kind of the primary guy, but they got Ott involved. No Barnes, no Xavier Robinson. I mean, I have to think that's kind of a clear signal of moving forward. Like, they kind of want Ott and Blaylock to be the two. I mean, we'll see what happens this week. Maybe there's some gamesmanship, kind of throwing Texas off the scent. Who knows, right? I wouldn't put anything past Venables in this staff. But for you guys, what'd you think with Ott and the running game in general? It was better, not like the huge day I think maybe everyone was kind of maybe hoping that would happen, but it was better, and they got Ott involved. I think there's at least enough there to kind of feel like, hey, maybe this guy can still be a big part of this the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think the offensive line did a pretty good job of opening up some holes for these guys.
Yeah,
and particularly when it comes to Jaydn Ott, like, I thought he looked really good on his first drive in particular. I think he had 2 carries for 22 yards on that drive, a 10-yard run, a 12-yard run. Again, this is a team that has not had a lot of those longer 10 plus, 15 plus yard runs this season. And he comes out there and immediately pops a couple of for a first down. And it was more production in those, 2 runs than he had through the first 4 games combined. So that's certainly promising. You just watch him and he looks like he's, like Ben Arbuckle said after the game, he's got a little juice to him. You're hoping that this is the moment where, kind of turn the corner and it's a portend of things to come for him. And I'm inclined to believe that should be the case, just because we've heard over the last couple of weeks kind of how he's seemingly been more engaged and more locked in practice. Dialed in, I think, was the word that Ben Arbuckle used at the beginning of last week. And like Brent Venables said after the game, it's like, you wish it would have happened sooner, but in some ways it's right on time. Because look, we discussed it on this podcast multiple times. Like, if it did not happen by the Kent State game, it wasn't going to happen in SEC play, because you're not going to start trusting someone in the meat of that schedule. So for Jaydn Ott to finally get going against Kent State, and look, the numbers overall are modest. They're not going to blow you away, but when you go back and you watch what he did, especially compared to how he looked in some of those appearances earlier this season, it's much more encouraging and gives you, some optimism that, hey, maybe, he might not be the, slam dunk home run hitting type of guy that he was being touted as when they added him in the spring, but he's someone that you can rely on and can elevate this rushing attack from where it was in the first third of the season.
Yeah, and I think it showed some explosiveness for him, because I think he's gotten more comfortable in the offense. I think that was a major part of his, slow start as well, like just not knowing it all the way. So he did really good in those areas, and just it turned out really well. I think you're still going to see Javonte Barnes out there a couple of times because of his outstanding pass blocking ability. But I can see Torrey Blaylock and Jaydn Ott getting a better share of the carries going forward this season. I think Tatum and Robinson may be heading to a redshirt type of year for them, just based on the running backs that are out there. So I think that's all going to play a part into it. But I liked what Jaydn Ott looked like overall. As I said in the post game, it was like you could see it. You could see it now. He could be a serviceable back. Maybe not as a star type of caliber as player like Tom just said, but he could be serviceable for OU. And I think that's going to help out a lot as we go into the SEC play.
Yeah, just good to see him get out there. And it's so funny, like OU fans are so dialed in to stuff. And, he gets out there and gets that first carry for first down. And he got like a standing O. Like everyone wants to see this guy be a part of this. And, good to see him just get out there again. We said on Friday, if he didn't do something, it was kind of over. So he at least did something to keep it going. And like, we can kind of still hope that this guy can have the year that everyone thought he was going to have, or at least the impact down the stretch. Maybe not the overall year, but so we'll see. Good to see him get involved. Other things offensively, good to see Giovanni Gibson get back out there. He only had the one catch, which James referenced earlier. But again, I said on Friday, it wasn't really going to be as much about the stats as much as just kind of how he looked. I thought he was moving around all right. The one catch actually was a pretty good catch because the throw was offline. He got smoked, but he held on to it. Isaiah Satania continues to be really good.
Yep.
2 more touchdowns for him in this game. James mentioned the Keontae Lewis, very scary play, goes into the wall in the north end zone in the very first drive of the game. I've never seen anyone just full speed into the wall like that. Terrifying play. It sounds like the worst has been avoided. Hopefully it sounds mostly positive there. We hope to get more updates, coming up. But any other things that stuck out offensively you guys wanted to touch on?
Yeah. Isaiah Satania, again, I wrote this after the game, but he's been their best receiver this season.
Especially the last few weeks. He's really taken off.
Yeah, he's been very consistent these last 3 games in particular. Obviously had back-to-back career games against Temple and Auburn, and then follows it up again. He's their leading receiver for the 3rd game in a row. Makes some really nice plays out there. I know he had some ups and downs through those first couple of games, but he really seems to have found a rhythm here and a groove. And again, not just as a receiver, like on special teams, he was electric on punt returns in this game too. He's a big reason why they were, starting out at the 45-yard line pretty much every drive.
Right.
Average, close to 20 yards per punt return in this one. I still think it's only a matter of time before he houses one this season, if teams keep kicking to him, that is. And then Caden Helms, I did not expect him to get their first receiving touchdown at end position, especially considering what, Jaron Kanik did through those first 4 games. But it was good to just see him out there and healthy. He's a guy that we thought through the offseason could be a factor in the passing game at a tight end for them. And then he, goes and, has that hand injury like the first week of fall camp, and is in a soft cast for a couple months. So to get him back out there and get him involved early, and I think that was his 2nd career touchdown catch. It was just good to see him have some of that early success that maybe they can build on, and he can be the guy that's the complementary piece to Jaron Kanik in that offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Tom hit all the talking points there. I mean, every single player that we were talking about in the post game, I think is what he just mentioned. How about Gabe Sawchuk as well? Like just the little last field carries that he got, he looked pretty good there. I mean, just a little pop, yeah. So just wanted to shout him out, give him his props too. He looked pretty good on that run. Just saw that. So pretty much that's it. I mean, overall.
No, cool to see Caden Helms get in the end zone for sure. He just battled so many injuries. Had another one in fall camp this year. Gets it there, gets in the end zone. That was cool. A little Whit Newbauer into this game as well. I thought he kind of looked good. He only completed 1 of the 3 passes, but kind of looked all right. He ran the ball a little bit. Not bad.
Even Jet New got in at the end.
Had a handoff. They were working everyone into this game. So, an okay day for the offense overall. We'll see. We'll peer ahead this week to what lies ahead a little bit in just a minute. But let's go to the defense first. Got the shutout finally. You guys mentioned earlier. They dominated the game. Kent State, 17 rushing yards, lowest since 2009. I know your defense has allowed, which is insane. Can I interest you in half a yard per carry? Not bad. 0.5. They didn't have Jaden Jackson or Dominic Williams in this game. Both guys were held out, a little nicked up. I think both should be out there this week, I'd expect, against Texas. I thought at times that there were some plays to be made for Kent State that they just weren't able to make them. But overall, the defense, they did their thing. I don't know if we really learned anything defensively. Good to see Eli Bowen get back out there and play a little bit. Again, like Giovanni, just good to see him moving around. Thought he moved okay. Anything stuck out defensively? And again, I thought there was a little bit of, I don't know if they had quite like the intensity that they've had in some of these other games, which is to be expected. It's a hard spot. It wasn't like some packed crowd. Like, it wasn't exactly electric in there, and everyone kind of knew what the deal was. Like, we just got to get through this. But they got their shutout, right? They played well still and got their shutout.
Yeah. As far as, questions, maybe I think the secondary still, has some things to shore up. To your point,
Sure.
It felt like Kent State had some plays that it could go out there and make. They still had a couple big passing plays. I think one was against Davon Jordan, and the other might have been, I can't remember who the other one was who the other one in coverage was at that point. But I think it was good to see Eli Bowen back out there, like you said. I think as Brent Venables said after the game, it's like he didn't do anything that like incurred Brent's wrath during the game. So it's like didn't have any screw ups in his first, real action out there since the Armed Forces Bowl. So that was good to see. He played, I think, 25 snaps about like that. Again, this defensive line just continues to be dominant. It's what we expected, even without two starters in there in Jaden Jackson and Dominic Williams. You get David Stone, who goes out there and in one game matches his production from his entire freshman season.
Yeah,
6 tackles, 2 for a loss, gets in on a sack there with Grayson Halton. Grayson Halton finally gets his defensive touchdown. Which he should have had one earlier against Temple, but made that drop in the end zone on the potential pick 6.
Right.
And our Mason Thomas, man, like the numbers don't always show up, but he's just so dominant. He was the highest graded pass rusher or edge rusher in the country this week per Pro Football Focus, and did that on only like a dozen pass rushing attempts. So just really solid across the board from that defensive front. But yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool that Jaden Hardy got the first interception for the defense. So I guess not the name I thought would have been at the safety position, just getting that and really jumping that route and coming away with the football. So that was a good read by him and what they did. And as Tom said, the defensive line is the main focal point of this defense, and it's shown up. They didn't start their 2 of their top guys on defensive line and gave it to 2 other guys and had, as you said, 17 rushing yards against Kent State. I mean, that's just phenomenal stuff. Yeah. David Stone had his best performance of his career in the game that he got his first start, and he still said it was a B+. I asked him about it. He said he gave us his performance a B+, and he could have been a little bit better. Right. I mean, just some of the things he had done. But overall, just a great performance from the defense. I think they went out there and, as Brent Venables said, they had a mature win. They went out there and kept the standard of Oklahoma and didn't, sleepwalk through the game. They kept everything up, and that's where they came away with a shutout. And this one they should have won handily anyway.
Yeah, David Stone's playing really good football right now. He's disrupting every play that he's out there. Tough. I mean, he just moves everything. He's playing great football. That defensive tackle room is everything we thought it was going to be before the year. It's been great. Good to see Danny Okoye get out there and get a sack. Yes. He just eviscerated his man on that right tackle, just totally destroyed him and got the sack on that. Mm-hmm. Great to see that. 5 sacks on Saturday. They're tied for the most in the country in sacks right now. Them in Tennessee, 21. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
I was going to say, can I interest you in some defensive numbers through 5 games?
Please do. It's awesome to watch. I mean, it's incredible. They're giving up no points. How many points total is it right now?
36. They've forced more punts, 40, than they have points allowed, 36.
I remember seeing that.
They're giving up 7.2 points per game, but they're first in the FBS in total defense, holding teams to 193 yards per game. First in the FBS in yards allowed per play, 3.5. Tied for first in sacks, 4.2 per game. First in tackles for loss, 10 per game. And first in third down efficiency. Opponents are converting just 17.4% of their third downs. They're also number 1 in the SEC and top 5 nationally in scoring defense, 7.2 points per game, second in the country. Passing defense, 118.4 yards per game allowed, and 4.8 yards per pass attempt allowed, which is second in the nation. And pass efficiency defense, 93.5, is fourth nationally. And they're second in the SEC and 5th nationally in rushing defense, holding teams to 74.6 yards per game and just 2.4 yards per carry. And for the people that like advanced stats, they are second defensively in SP Plus, according to ESPN right now. I think only Ohio State is ahead of them.
Brent Venables had a vision.
It's incredible, man.
You're starting to see
defense that 5-6 years ago couldn't stop a high school team. You know, I mean, it was so bad, just incapable of doing anything. I remember, 2018, I think it was, like a 1 or 2 win Kansas team coming into Norman and scoring 40 points. I mean, you won the game because the offense was incredible, but it was horrendous at a level that's hard to comprehend. And to compare that to what it is now is it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But defense is playing great. Got their shutout finally.
Yep.
That they probably should have already had in a couple other games this year. And they totally dominated. I mean, again, U.S. rushing yards allowed since 2009. Okay, I know Kent State's not any good, but that's 16 years. I mean, that's no matter who you're playing. They've played a lot of bad teams since then. A lot of FCS teams, they've never done that, so pretty crazy.
And look, it's worth noting that 3 of these first 5 games have been against their worst opponents of the season. They're still going to play much tougher competition. I think 3 of their 7 SEC games remaining are against like top 18 offenses in terms of SP plus. So they will get tested, but the fact that they've been so thoroughly dominant through this first 5 game stretch, you go into the teeth of your schedule with a defense that you can lean on and can carry you if needed.
And everybody's relatively healthy on that side of the football as well. So it's the perfect time for them to enter it right now.
In pretty good shape. One last thing with this game, then we'll start to look ahead, obviously, to what looms this weekend in Dallas. Special teams, really good. We talked about it earlier this year after the Michigan game. I mentioned you guys on the pod that following Monday. We talked about it then. Are we worried about the special teams? Because it was kind of bad in that game, and it almost cost them in a lot of ways. It's rolling now. Tate Sendell, awesome again, was just named co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. Tom has the story over on the website. Grayson Miller continues to be nuts. You guys mentioned Isaiah Satania is providing a lot in the punt return game right now. Special teams is making a difference right now. And as they continue to play these close games, that's Sandell and Miller. I mean, Satania also, major X factor. I mean, they're playing really well on that kind of third phase of the game right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you know that you only need to get to the 40-yard line to get points, that gives you a little bit of
that kick was good for
pressure off.
60 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a boot.
Yeah, that was a career long for him. Last year at UTSA, he set the program record with a 54-yarder. So now he's got a 55-yarder under his belt too. He missed that first kick of the season against Michigan, a 42-yarder. Since then, he's made 9 in a row. He's got a pair of 50-plus yarders. Got 2 more that went 49 yards. He's perfect on extra points. He is, as advertised right now when they signed him out of the portal back in April, I guess it was. So just really impressive for him, and really good for Oklahoma to have that weapon that they can lean on, because we've discussed it time and again just how inconsistent the kicking game has been in these first few years under Brent Venables. Got a little bit of stability last year when Zach Schmidt found his rhythm, but they've not had a guy like Tate Sandell back there, really since 2021 with Gabe Burkage. So to have a weapon like him where the offense knows it just needs to get to the opposing team's 40-yard line to get points is good. Obviously, you want touchdowns whenever you can, but to know that you don't need to pick up that many yards to get on the board probably takes some pressure off them. We've talked about Grayson Miller a ton. Solid again, had that one that got pinned at the 1-yard line. And Isaiah Satania, like I said, I think it's only a matter of time. If teams keep kicking to him, it's only a matter of time before he houses one this season.
Yeah, Grayson Miller. That when you have such a good defense, field position is such a key thing, especially as you go into the SEC. Having that situation where you pin him at the 1-yard line, that's gonna bode well for the season, man. Like when you had those great offenses, the prolific offenses that OU had back in the past, it didn't really matter because you're just gonna score from anywhere. But it makes a difference when a lot of teams don't have that now. It's like that having it at the 1-yard line, that's big, man. So that's gonna be very beneficial for them. And even the gunners on the kickoffs, Elijah Thomas is done really well. Yeah. I mean, in that area as well. So special teams as a whole is seeing a big improvement from that Michigan game and that first game that we saw this season overall. So I think it's just been a really good time for Doug Deacon to get his props and what he's done with that unit this season.
Yeah, it feels like every kickoff is either Elijah Thomas or Kip Lewis just like obliterating someone at this point. But to James's point, like how far this unit has come in 2 years under Doug Deacon, after that 2023 season, Oklahoma, I think, was like 94th in special teams SP plus. Right now, they're 13th in the country. Last year, they were like in the 40s, 50s. So you're seeing that progression, and you're seeing why, Brent went out there and got Doug Deacon from San Diego State, and it's paying off big time right now.
And those special teams, when those close games, man, that's exactly the unit that does it for you.
No, I mean, you need points. I mean, we get these close games. Sandell being reliable is huge. And like James said, I mean, if Grayson Miller continues, I'm not looking for the 1 yard line every time, but if he can pin teams inside the 10 regularly with the way this defense can get after you, man, and that's huge. That's huge to try and create negative plays and back them up and get a good field position for your offense. Like, that is a huge part of the game. And they're kind of crutching it right now. So I want to make sure to give props there, because it's been great. And I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to go through the Rolodex of like best kicker and punter combos that Oklahoma's had recently. This has got to be up there. I mean, because you try to think, like Tom mentioned Burkich, they had Michael Turk then, who was kind of hit a big leg, but always wasn't real good at like actually pinning teams. He kind of was just, I'll boot it, sort of a guy. And you try to just back it up. Like last year, Elzinga was great, but the kicking game was kind of So it's like to have both feeling good is nice. So good win for Oklahoma. They dominated the game as expected, 44-0. The question now is moving forward. So this week, and we'll have the preview on Friday, so we're going to pick the game then and all that. But as of right now, we're sitting here Monday. Oklahoma is underdogs this weekend. I just checked it. 3-point underdogs on the road. John Mateer's the major X factor matzo ball hanging over this game, right? That nobody knows. He was at the game on Saturday. He was in uniform, which is normal. Injured players have dressed most often under Brent Venables. Had a brace on his hand, wasn't doing anything pregame. He was just kind of standing around and, encouraging guys. Seemed to be in good spirits and everything, smiling, all that good stuff. The question is going to be all week, is he going to play? But my question to you guys here, should Oklahoma be underdogs without him? Because they are right now. And that kind of surprised me. I kind of thought, I even said it to Tom, I think, in postgame, we're waiting for Brent Venables to come in. I think OU should probably be favored next weekend, even if Mateer's not available, because Texas loses to Florida. They go down in the swamp. Arch Manning does not look good. Their offense does not look good. For you guys, I mean, some thoughts there. If Mateer is not available, because I think, are we all in agreement that if John Mateer is a go, Oklahoma should be favored to win the game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if he's not, should they still be favored to win the game, or underdogs like they actually are?
It's a tough question, to be honest. Again, like what we saw from Michael Hawkins, there was good and there was bad. I think he's better than what he looked like against Texas last year. But this Texas defense is really good too. These are two of the best defenses in the country that are going to be out there on Saturday. Arch Manning has obviously not looked great this season. Certainly has not lived up to all the hype that was just building for 2 years to this moment. But it's really a question right now. It's like, which of these offenses do you trust more going into that game? And is it Arch Manning with what they've done through 5 games, haven't beaten a Power 4 opponent yet? Or is it a sophomore Michael Hawkins who, looked a little uneven against the worst team in FBS? And, we saw what he did in his, 3 starts against SEC opponents last season. I think it's a really tough question. And, that's probably why, the odds makers right now have Oklahoma as an underdog, because they're not expecting John Mateer to be out there.
Right.
But if you look at ESPN's models for, SP plus projections, I think, and that one doesn't factor in injuries right now. I think it has Oklahoma as like a 4-point favorite over Texas. So you see the difference there is basically a touchdown between whether they think John Mateer will play or whether they think Michael Hawkins Jr. will start. It's going to be the biggest point of contention throughout the week. I think that Wednesday evening SEC availability report might be the most read thing in Oklahoma and in Texas this week. So we'll see. It's going to be something to monitor throughout the week.
Texas wide receiver Livingston, I think, too, was banged up. He was like their go-to guy.
Wisner is hurt too, one of the running backs.
Is Wisner still hurt? Okay, yeah. I think all that's going to play. I think if John Mateer's playing in this game, Oklahoma should be like a 7-point favorite, I think, overall. A touchdown, I can see it happening. with Michael Hawkins out there, I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close game, regardless of how you see it on either side. Which is, I respect the line of it being like 3 points or 2 points wherever you're looking at it. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I think Oklahoma has the better defense and special teams unit, as we just mentioned, and I think that's going to play a part in it as well when you get to these close games. So, I mean, I could see it going either way, but I think Oklahoma, as I said in the post game, Oklahoma could still win this game with Michael Hawkins playing quarterback, because I think they're just good across the board in so many areas that it's going to affect Texas a lot. And we've seen Brent Venables be ready for Texas. The scoreboard hasn't shown what his defenses have done in stopping what they can do. I think that it's gonna make a big difference just having Brent Venables on their side against a young quarterback in terms of on the field play. I know Arch Manning he's a junior, I think, overall, but he has on field play as like his first year going at it full time. So I think Brent Venables is always ready for that type of moment. So just want to see what's going on there with that.
Yeah, said it last week that I did believe that Oklahoma could still win games with Michael Hawkins and could still beat Texas even without John Mateer and with Michael Hawkins in there. I still feel that way. Again, it would have been better if it just looked a little more polished on Saturday. We talked about it earlier, but I still feel like they can win. Now, maybe I'm crazy. Even with Michael Hawkins in there, like James said, it'll be if it is Hawkins versus Arch. I fully expect it to be a very low-scoring, ugly defensive struggle, and at that point, it's going to come down to maybe one or two big play. Who can break the big play? Who can get the big turnover? The way momentum flips in that game is so unique. And, it's going to be interesting. I'm a little surprised Oklahoma is still an underdog. That just goes to show, I guess, the level of respect that is out there for John Mateer. And like Tom said, the expectation nationally is that he's not going to play. But we'll see. It's going to be a conversation all week. I don't think Brent Venables, Oklahoma's going to tip their hand too much here. I fully expect to get to Saturday and it's still not being known. And we're going to watch the warm-ups, and John's going to get out there. He's going to throw the ball around, and we're all going to be looking at his thumb, like, what does it look like? And we're going to try to figure it out. And they're going to go out there for the first drive, and either it's going to be a huge crowd pop when number 10 goes out there, or it's going to be like, oh, boy, if it's not him, right? So, I think Oklahoma can win this weekend, Mateer or not. If Mateer is playing, I feel great about Oklahoma's chances because of the way the defense is playing and, frankly, what Texas is not doing offensively right now. It's kind of ugly for them. Their offensive line is not playing well. And, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting week. This is one of the weirder OU-Texas games. It's also, the AP poll comes out and Texas is unranked, which nobody would have thought before the year. OU is number 6, and yet Texas is still the favored team. It's just such a weird game. It's a weird spot right now because I don't think anyone really knows what to expect.
And do we think Texas is better than Michigan or Auburn? At this time, it's kind of they're better than Auburn. Yes, I would agree. But they're not better than Michigan. So I think with John Mateer out there, it's like clearly
they might be better than Michigan. I don't know. It's hard. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard. It's close. I feel about the same, probably. About the same. I still don't know. Where are you guys at with Arch? Does he just stink? Like, no way he just stinks.
He doesn't stink. I don't think he has to get used to the level of play that is in the SEC. And I think Texas offensive line isn't as good as they were when we saw Arch Manning last year.
No.
And I think that's playing a part in just his comfortability out there. So I think he doesn't stink for sure. I think he's a solid quarterback right now. And he can get better, but he doesn't stink, I don't think, overall. That's not where I would see it.
Yeah, I think he still has all the talent in the world. But I think he also might be just kind of a victim of the hype machine.
Yeah.
And so much that went into, propping him up over these last 2 years without him really being tested. But yeah, no, I would not have guessed that Texas would be unranked going into this game. I saw a stat last night from The Athletic. This is the first season in history that both the preseason number 1 and number 2 teams fell out of the top 25. Mm-hmm. So, Texas and Penn State unranked right now, going into week 7. Just kind of crazy. But look, I absolutely believe Oklahoma can win this game with Michael Hawkins because the defense is that good. The special teams has been that good. You just need the offense to do enough against, again, a very stout Texas defense. But having John Mateer obviously just changes the equation. And Oklahoma would absolutely be favored if John Mateer is playing this game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The whole conversation, the whole Hawkins thing, and it all goes out the window if Mateer can just play this week, obviously. And That's going to be a question all week. I do think that, toward the tail end of last week, he was able to get out there and throw the ball around a little. Again, I don't know to what degree, and I don't think even necessarily he or Oklahoma really knows at this point. It's going to be like a day-to-day, how's that thumb? How's that thumb feeling? Because at the end of the day, even beyond like a pain tolerance thing, can he grip the ball? Can he grip the ball? Can he take a sack and not fumble? These are questions that are, again, I don't know if even Oklahoma really totally knows and will know until Friday night or Saturday morning, even maybe. It's a day-to-day injury right now, trying to see if he can have that thumb feeling good enough. I know with complete certainty that John thinks he's going to play and he's going to try. Yeah. But at a certain point, he just may not be able to. But maybe he will. I don't know.
I just think running the ball, when he runs the ball, that's the most dangerous.
That's what I'm saying. Can he take hits? Can he take hits and not fumble?
Guys are going to be punching at the ball.
Yeah, right.
And carrying it as well. Right. Like that could play a part.
Right.
So like, is he comfortable taking those type of, hits right there? Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, Tom.
Everybody hit up their local Chipotle tortilla pressers to get the scoop on John Mateer.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very interesting situation for Oklahoma this week if John Mateer is close. Like you said, John wants to play in this game. Like, kid from just outside of Dallas, he's been to this game as a fan before. Like, part of why he came to Oklahoma was to play in these types of games. He's going to do everything he can to get there. The question for the proposal here for Oklahoma is, if he's close, but you are concerned that even the slightest thing could set him back, do you hold him out and roll the dice with Michael Hawkins? Because a loss, look, you want to beat Texas. That is the game that you always want to win. Brent Venables does not want to fall to 1-3 against Texas in his career here. But a loss to Texas, if it means getting a healthier John Mateer back a week later for the last 6 games of this season, is not going to knock you out of the playoff contention. Like, everything will still be in front of you if you lose to Texas without John Mateer. And it means that you preserve his health another week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's the case or not, we'll see. Again, John wants to play in this game. I'm sure he's going to do everything he can to make himself available in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to have to be smart about it. Like Brent said last week, like, he was out there for first practice last Monday, like, rearing to go, like, wanting to do everything he could.
Right.
But they had to kind of rein him in and just be smart about his recovery and not push it, even though he's going to push it as much as he can to make himself ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, the scoreboard hasn't really decided. I mean, just how Brent Venables' record could be perceived. He hasn't had his starting quarterbacks in the games that he's lost against Texas so far. So, I think that should play a part. Like, could this be another opportunity to play with your, backup quarterback and try to win against Texas and redeem yourself from all of that? I think, you got to look at all that when you talk about, his record against Texas. I think that plays a part in this overall, I think. So,
is there any world where we know if John's playing before Saturday?
Before? No.
Probably not. I mean, look, I wrote this yesterday morning in my morning after thoughts. I was like, look, Brent said after the game that he's working under the assumption that John Mateer won't play.
Already starting. Yeah.
I won't believe that John Mateer is not playing in this game until Michael Hawkins takes the field for the first possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
even then I'm like, are they holding them for the second possession?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want Texas to prepare for both quarterbacks. I mean, make it as hard as you can for them in preparation. Because obviously the offense is going to look different with those two quarterbacks out there, and Texas knows that. So you have to make them prepare for both. So I don't think we're going to see before Saturday.
And Sark even said today when he met with the media, it's like they're preparing for John Mateer. Like, you have to. He's just like that dynamic of a player that you have to be ready in case that he is ready to play. Mm-hmm. But look, I would not be surprised if John Mateer is listed as either doubtful or questionable on the availability report Wednesday, and just kind of remains questionable up until kickoff, and then it becomes a game time decision.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big day.
I would be shocked if it is not doubtful / questionable game time decision, and then we don't know until he's out there.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big day for you, Josh. You're down there. You can see the film better than we can in the press box.
I was thinking that. I was thinking, whenever I'm always there when they get off the bus. Yeah, that's going to be the most anticipated. Does he have a brace on that? be zeroing in on trying to see his right hand.
I think he's gonna wear the brace off the bus just to
he might
get along with it.
Right.
It's gonna be like that. You seen that old? I think it's Kevin Nash WWE.
Oh yes.
Yeah, where he's like in the wheelchair with the cast up, and then he takes the blanket off and he just stands up.
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna be because we did this in 2022, different situation, but we did this in 2022 with Dylan Gabriel had a concussion. And it's the same thing. We watched him warm up, and it was like, oh man, look, he might play, and then he didn't. But that just gives you an idea of how Oklahoma handled that, where they knew he wasn't playing, but they had him go out there. He was dressed, he warmed up, and we didn't really totally know until Davis Bevel came out for that first drive. So if that's any indication, that's probably what we're going to be dealing with again. But we're all going to be. That's going to be the most viewed and lasered in on warm up ever, just to see what it looks like. Because unlike that, where it was a concussion, where you don't really, it's hard to tell. If John Mateer's out there and he doesn't have anything on the thumb and he's throwing the ball and it looks good, it's like, I guess go for it. I mean, unless they feel like it's too risky, so we'll see. It's going to be a wild week. Yeah, I mean, Brent Venables, we'll see what he says on the coach's show tonight, press conference tomorrow, what Ben Arbuckle says. Do they tip their hand at all? Do any players tip their hand tonight? It's going to be very they're going to get a major talking to, I think, before they meet with the media tonight of what you should and should not say about this. And so we'll see. Player interviews tonight. Venables, Arbuckle press conference tomorrow. Colin Kennedy will be back with you on Thursday to hit some recruiting stuff. And then we'll be back Friday to set the stage. Obviously, we'll touch base back on this, how we're feeling about Mateer's status on going into the weekend. We'll set the stage and obviously preview the game and lock in our picks, all that good stuff on the game preview on Friday. I think that's it for now. We'll see you back, Colin and I, on Thursday, the three of us on Friday for the preview, player interviews tonight, press conference tomorrow in Norman. For Tom Green, James E. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway, signing off for now. We'll see you next time right back here, as always, on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.